And good morning. My name is Ryan Belmore, and I am the owner and publisher of What's Up Noop. And we are continuing our conversations with the candidates here at What's Up Noop. And over the last couple of weeks, we've been chatting with candidates from all sorts of races, from your local school committee all the way up to governor and beyond, Congressional District 1, Congressional District 2. We have about 70 interviews scheduled this month, and you can find the full schedule on whatsupnoop.com. The beautiful thing about these videos is you can watch them live as they happen, as some of you do. You can also watch them anytime afterward, available on whatsupnoop.com, our YouTube channel, Facebook. And we also turn them into podcasts, so you can listen to them while you're driving or while you're traveling or while you're working. So all different ways to consume the content. A couple quick notes: vote.ri.gov. Go on, log in, put your home address in, put your information in, check your voter status, make sure you're registered. When you put your home address, you can see your sample ballot. Very important. Lots of candidates in every community running for office, all the way from the bottom to the top, as well as lots of ballot questions. Newport has 10 ballot questions. Middletown has 6. And each community is different. There's statewide questions, local issues. So lots to dive into there. So vote.ri.gov. Check all of that information. We are going to be in Middletown today, and where there is nothing going on at all. And joining me to talk about all the things that aren't going on in Middletown is Chris Logan. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing good, Ryan. Thanks for having me on, bud.
Of course. Nothing going on in Middletown that's newsworthy, right?
No shortage of thrills and spills, right? There's always going to be something going on. I think we're definitely in the crosshairs of potential change that's good for the community here. It's going to be great for the island, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, no shortages of things to get done, ever.
That's it. And Chris currently sits on Middletown Town Council, and he is seeking you to fill in the bubble next to his name. Come up whenever you vote between October 19th and November 8th. Chris, give us a little bit of background about yourself for those who might be hearing about you for the first time. And your journey has been a little bit different to the Middletown Town Council position.
Yeah. I'll cover that after I cover myself. Well, again, thanks for the opportunity. For anybody that doesn't know me, hasn't met me, I'm a lifelong Islander. Born and raised here, went in the Marine Corps, came back to raise my family here. I look at Middletown and just Aquidneck Island and Rhode Island in general as the place that is directly attributed to my success. The people that I've met, the experiences that I've gained have really shaped the person that I've become today. Personally, just on a personal note, I've been married to my wife, Christina, for over 20 years. We have 4 children. All 4 children have attended the Middletown public school system. 2 have graduated or off in college, or one's done with college and one's in college right now. But we have 2 more making their way through the system. Shortly after I graduated from Middletown High School, I joined the Marine Corps, honorably discharged, got to see a lot of places across the world, worked at a lot of different institutions, MIT, Lifespan, Care New England. Currently, I'm the Senior Vice President Chief Security Officer for a small technology healthcare startup that deals with risk management. Background for education, earned a bachelor's degree from St. Leo's University, and then my MBA from Bryant University, so keeping it local in Rhode Island, and everything in between. I'll tell you, I look at Middletown, and hopefully we can remain that epicenter to really be a destination for both business and families. I think it's a great place to live. I think if we're balancing our economic development needs and meeting the needs of the community members out there, we have a recipe for success. And there's no shortage of opportunity to improve upon that. And that's why I ran a couple of years ago. I saw the opportunity to really make Middletown that destination. Now, unfortunately, there was a lot of people running last time I was on the ballot, right? And I fell just short. I was like that second man out. But, as things happen, as karma and, just in general, life takes shape, is that I wound up getting appointed to the town council when one of the members actually resigned due to health. And so I had the opportunity to actually sit on the council for the last year and a half. I wasn't elected, I was appointed. So very important for me that hopefully the job that I've done has earned me that spot to be elected to that town council, to continue to serve the community here in Middletown and have a larger impact on how we're making it the most diverse and most just greatest place for people to come to, really drive families in, drive business in, make it the destination for everybody to come in and enjoy this beautiful island oasis that we live on.
Chris, you have had a year and a half to get to know the systems, all that's going on, all these challenges. You're a busy man, you're father of four, a full-time job. What makes you decide back in the spring or earlier this year that you wanted to put your name on that ballot again?
I'm just learning how it works. The job's not done. I think one of those things from my ethos and how I like to get to work is that the job's not done. There's more stuff to do. I don't think it'll ever be done, to be quite honest with you, because it's an iterative process. We're going to continue to grow. But I honestly believe that we have opportunities that we can really start to streamline, find some efficiencies in government, really create some economic vitality for the town of Middletown and bring that vitality across the entire island, right? I feel like what I've learned over the last year and a half as well is that, transparency is king. How do we continue to meet the needs and reach the needs of those citizens that we're serving? I think we're just starting to scratch the surface. I really want to see how we engage not only the citizens with local government, but with each other, right? Because that's what makes the community so damn strong. I sit back and I was looking, there's no shortage of conversation we could have about the school department. I'll just leave it at that, right? That is a journey, right? We're not going to solve that problem overnight. This is going to be a process where we can start to look at how do we make the system better to meet every child where they're at in their educational journey, knowing that every child's not the same, they're different, right? So there's a huge opportunity there for us to continue to plow forward and solve some of those problems. And then finally, the last thing, and this should be, a very relevant conversation for everybody now, affordability. I think as you're looking at what's happening with the global economy and how that's impacting our local economy, how do we continue to drive policy, create legislation that allows affordability to be a cornerstone for what we're doing to help satisfy the needs of the community that we're serving? So whether that's in both housing or finding ways to work with the state on things like utility costs and really making it relevant to those folks that are making decisions on behalf of all of us across Rhode Island, how it's impacting our local community, especially if you look at our community as well, because we have a mixed bag, right? We have a great senior population. They deserve our best. We should be doing everything in our power to make sure that those seniors who live on fixed incomes stay in their homes, have the opportunity to continue to live and thrive in the community that they chose to live in many, many years ago, right? How do we make it affordable for families to come here? That starts with the school system. That starts with making sure housing is available. You said in the beginning, there's no shortage of things to solve for. So when I sat back after the year and a half, learning, observing, trying to think logically about how to solve problems and use some business common sense or business sense behind it, I said, I'm not done. The work's not done. Am I busy? Of course, we're all busy. Am I willing to step in and sacrifice some of my personal time to have a bigger impact for our community? Absolutely. So the job's not done.
Almost a full term on your belt. What's been the most surprising?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. There's a lot of things that are surprising. It's been interesting to see as some things have moved through the process. One of the things that I look at from a business perspective is agility. Why does it take so long to get certain things done? I'm learning that it's just the municipal way, and sometimes it does require additional layers to get to that final answer. So I think that's been the most surprising thing. I'm used to being able to make a decision and execute said decision in my personal and business life near real time, right? We make a choice based upon the information we have. We run forward, we go after it, we tackle it. If we fail forward, or we fail fast, and we regroup again. Not exactly how it works here. So I think that's probably the most surprising element is that the process for things that as they work through the system takes quite a long time for information gathering.
Yeah, you often hear that, and it's same thing here. I could throw something up completely new today and try it, and if it doesn't work, but with the city or town government, you have to have 6 public meetings and get it voted and approved by a legal team and approved by finance. I think often misunderstood in government is the process, how long something takes to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. And the second side of that coin is, how do we get feedback, the loop for feedback in? I think that's the other thing that's surprising to me, because we go out and ask, we go out, send polls. We got a great public affairs officer now who gets the information out there. I don't think we're getting everybody's opinion on matters. Now, I'll pick up the phone and I'll talk to people graciously and humbly. I accept phone calls as well when they come in to have conversations, but it's really only scratching the surface. I mean, there's a number of issues in Middletown that people are wildly for or wildly against. But if you look at how that information is coming in, it's coming in dribs and drabs. And to make informed decisions based upon just that little bit of information, it's tough. It's not easy, right? But I think in the role that you have when you sit up on the dais there is you use the information that's at hand and you make decisions with the best interest in mind of every citizen in the community. So it's just been an interesting ride the last year and a half.
And not to make this a PSA, but I think often if people aren't paying attention, which the majority aren't paying attention, they get involved or share their feedback when it's a point where it's too late or it's after the fact, where the town of Middletown, Matt Sheely, does the PR man behind town of Middletown's website, in all things PR for Middletown, does an amazing job. And if you are in Middletown and not signed up for all the news alerts and emails, just get them. You get the agendas delivered right to you. You got to get involved early in the process, because although the process takes so long, sometimes your feedback needs to be heard in step one, not step, not at the 1 yard line. So, yeah. Man, there are a lot of different ways to dive in here, but, there's a couple big questions coming up on the ballot. And, normally I'd ask you what you think the priorities are for Middletown Town Council moving forward. And some of them might have to do with, the questions that are there on the ballot. So what do you think some of the biggest priorities are? And you can loop in the big questions if you want.
Well, I think the big questions are the big priority right now. We started this journey. I'll just talk about regionalization. I know you want to ask it and you didn't, but I'll just throw it out there.
I try to make it 10 minutes without bringing it up to see if
Good
you
luck.
And I did.
Yeah, I mean, the regionalization question is an important topic, not just for the citizens of Middletown, but also for Newport as well. When this first became an opportunity, and I say opportunity because it actually is an opportunity. If you go back and remember, if you were a part of this, we were struggling or grasping at what we were going to do with our schools. And if you remember, the new counselor, who happened to be me, was like, I disagree with what we're going to be doing for $90 million bond. It was a Band-Aid basically on the physical plant, which wasn't going to have educational improvements for our students. That didn't go over well, right? A lot of people were upset with me that I wasn't supporting. I said, come back and show me a different plan at 60 million, 45 million, so on and so forth. After we had a wonderful committee off of the school committee, the buildings committee, do a fantastic job of bringing all that information forward. When the opportunity for the regionalization came up, remember, this isn't the first time it's happened. It's been a table, a kitchen table question for many, many years in our community. I remember voting for it in the past. People ask me, how'd you vote for this in the past? I voted for it. And there was a reason why, because I think we're stronger when we line ourselves together, right? Now, obviously, there were certain issues that were brought up in that previous past with, Article 16 and how that goes forth and the governance and everything else. We found a way to manage the governments of the administration between the city and the municipality that is even and fair. The benefit that comes, yes, today, as you look at it, is primarily driven in economics, right? So it's about reimbursement rates, what we can do with new school buildings, what Newport gets back on their bond based upon those increased reimbursement rates. I firmly believe that the educational opportunities will present themselves. This is an interesting conundrum that we're in, because I pay attention here. I have kids that have graduated the high school. I have one in the high school now, one at Gaudet right now. I look at our RICAS scores. Are we doing our kids any favors? No, we're not. We're seeing a great dip in the educational outcomes. Why is that? There's a number of different reasons why. Maybe it's not enough teachers. Maybe it's not a right curriculum. Maybe we're just not meeting those kids where they need to be met. I think this brings opportunities to have a stronger community component to drive educational change. That's the biggest outcome for regionalization. And I firmly believe that bringing the two communities together is going to have a significant impact, but it starts with the voters and it starts at home. You have to want to have a benefit for your children in the school. You have to want to have a thriving school system. That is going to bring people into our communities to move here because it's an economic driver. Good school systems produce more economics. It's a common sense theme right there. So I firmly believe that it's the right time to really start to move forward with that. Big question, right? One, more importantly, is that we bring it together. Two, there's a big money question for Middletown also on the table, right? That is not a small number. Was it $235 million? Oof, that's a big number. But when you start to break down what the implications are and what we would actually have to pay back, it's a no-brainer. It's really a no-brainer for the taxpayer because it's not just the people who are bringing their children into the school system here. It's the entire community that's going to have to grapple and come to grips with that question. And I think being able to provide that type of service on the outset as the first push forward really starts to bring this question to bear and the improvements that it'll make, not only for the school system, but also for our community, right? So, and I'll tell you, I fully support it. Just like the other counselors in Middletown, I fully support it. And it's not because we need new schools. We'll figure that out. This question fails. My business mindset, I've already started to map out what plan B looks like, right? And it's going to be a longer drawn out process, but I know it has to happen. And this seems like a path that could really benefit more than just our community, but the entire surrounding communities on the island.
And for those who might just be tuning in, paying attention to this whole conversation now, there are two local questions on the Middletown ballot, one local question on the Newport ballot regarding this. All three questions have to pass for it to move forward. Again, I encourage all voters in Middletown and Newport, vote.ri.gov, read the legalese, ask questions, do more. Chris, I have interviewed the majority of Newport City Council at-large candidates as well as Newport School Committee candidates. Have heard from others. What do you think talk to those people and people that might be in the mindset of that this has been rushed or that the educational benefits haven't been outlined yet. Majority of candidates in Newport are not in favor of supporting this. How do you get them to your side?
Wow, that's a great question. That's a good curveball. I like a good curveball there. I want to encourage them to first and foremost think about the kids. What are the outcomes for the kids? I know there's been a lot of conversation. Well, what are the educational benefits? I mean, can we really figure that out in 6 months? No, we can't. The idea is that we know there are educational benefits on the other side. What I will say is that it is on us to ensure that those benefits are brought forth. So should this pass, right? Should the voters in Middletown and in Newport vote yes on those three questions and we move forward, the special election next November is going to be the most important election to determine the fate of what our children are going to benefit, right? That new regional school committee, it is our job to make sure the right people are appointed to ensure that they shape and mold what that curriculum is going to be, what those improvements, what the outcomes are that are going to be measured to. Assign or hire the right administration with the right vision to move this new regionalized unified school system forward in a meaningful manner. I cannot predict what's going to happen tomorrow. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, right? But what I can tell you is that it's our responsibility to shape what can be that possibility. So if we just go, we're going to give up, it's not worth it. You know what you're doing at the end of the day? You're just quitting on the kids. You're just push them to the side. Doesn't really matter. That's not the right answer. It's not the right answer. Take a look at the value proposition that's been brought forth through this process that we've brought to the table today. There is enough benefit right there to say, yes, this is the right decision to move forward with, and then hold ourselves accountable and responsible to put the right people in place to really move and drive that vision forward for the benefit of all of our kids. I think it's extremely short-sighted to just go, no, we're not going to do this. Maybe the past is tied in here. People have feelings, right? Emotions were high. The stakes were high there. I know there's been apologies and apology tours that have gone on about this, right? At face value, it's warranted. And I think it was the right thing to do. Some people just can't get over that fact. And they think that, you know what, screw these guys, screw this. We're just going to do it on our own. That's fine. We'll figure it out. But think about what the outcome could be for the kids. And I think from a business perspective, it makes sense. And then accountability has to take shape in order to prove that this was the right path to take.
I know that the city managers in the towns get together and work on things. Throughout these conversations, I don't know, I'm on 20, 30 interviews now. I just kind of, we're going to talk about some other things happening on West Main Road and some other. I just wonder if quarterly it's appropriate for the governments for the three communities on the island to get together in this, all these discussions are happening, but I wonder if we need to treat this island and work together more. For example, the north side of Newport. You have north side of Newport all being built up. You have Middletown Center being built up, not far from each other. Does it make sense for the city and town to get together as councils and, come up with a plan that's best for the entire island, not just for each of their communities, and work with blindfolds on?
Well, I think you're reading my mind. And again, so in the beginning, I talked about transparency, right? How do we get citizens to interact better with the local governments? That's just the tip of the spear. How do we get the local governments to interact better?
Yeah.
We don't, I hate to say this out loud, we don't talk to one another. I mean, we have sidebar conversations. There are a few people that I talk to here and there, but I firmly agree that there should be joint sessions that are held for planning activities like this. Why duplicate the types of services that we're providing? It makes no sense, right? If we're going to build something that's just a mile and a half away from the other thing, but they're going to be exactly the same, what's the true value to anybody that, one, in our tourist economy is going to come here, but two, to the citizens of both the cities and the towns, right? That's one area where we need to do a better job of transparency, and that's getting those elected bodies and officials together to start to have real conversations. I think the one thing, the true silver lining that came out of this idea about school regionalization, it brought the president of Middletown Town Council and the mayor of the city of Newport together to have a very thorough conversation about what an outcome could be for both communities. That is the seed that needed to get planted in order for us to take this conversation that we're having about forming and coming together to plan to that next level. So I think you're starting to see it happen, and it's happening with school regionalization. I think there is more that we can do to start to push that message forward. And I agree with you on this one. Our neighbors to the north, they're a part of this island as well. They have to be involved in these conversations because there will be impact to them. What that impact is right off the top of my head, I don't know. But the idea is that it will impact in some form or fashion. We should have a deeper conversation as three legislative bodies, three elected bodies, to help plan for what the best outcomes could be for the citizens across Aquidneck Island. So I firmly agree with you there.
Yeah, it's just, I'm having the thought more and more how the three communities all act like they're on their own islands, and they sometimes forget they're on an island with two other communities. If one community completely bans short-term rentals, well, we need, as residents, we need to think about what impact that has on our neighbors to the north or the south, or, they're going to go somewhere. They're still going to come here. So does it make sense to everybody have the same zoning laws or work together on short-term rentals or cannabis or development? If something is allowed in the north side of Newport, but that's not allowed in Middletown Center, who are we helping or hurting here? So
I agree with you. The cannabis question is a perfect example of that, right? So the citizen Middletown, I'm going to presume it's going to say no. It's just based upon my feelers and the people that I've talked to. Well, it already happens in the north, right? Yeah. So it's going to be on the island regardless. How are we going to deal with the potential fallout or potential benefits that are going to happen in the north? How's that going to impact our community as well? Yeah, we need to start really thinking larger as an entire community to solve some of these bigger problems. Short-term rentals is another one. I mean, we could talk for the next 45 minutes about short-term rentals if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly one of the biggest challenges, and I know it's not easy to fix, but there has to be something that can be done to keep it so people who want to live on the island, or let's stick with Middletown, live in Middletown full-time can, and they're not getting, they're getting pushed out from people who are coming in who just want a summer cottage and paying all cash.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, that's an interesting conundrum that we're in too. I mean, I did some research at the beginning of the summer looking at just what stock was available. And this was just in Middletown and what got sold and what got converted. I mean, it was less than 10%. If my numbers are correct, please don't quote me on this, but what I was looking at was it was about 10% of the inventory that got sold in Middletown in the prior 2 years converted into what I would consider a short-term rental. So it's really not a lot. There's other economic impacts. So I'll just go with supply and demand. So think about this for a second. One of the big issues that we have, and this is across the island, this isn't just Middletown, but I'll focus on Middletown, is that we just don't have the inventory to satisfy the demand, the need, right? There's just not enough inventory of single family homes for starters at a lower reasonable rate that people can afford. They're just not there. Hell, we don't even have apartments or what I would consider affordable housing across the island to satisfy that need. And that has an economic downturn on the service industry that is the primary industry driver for our tourist economy that we have. I mean, think about this for a second. If I'm a bartender, a waitress, a housekeeper, where am I going to live on the island? I'm not. I'm going to have to move someplace else and then commute to work here. That's not acceptable. It's not an acceptable explanation. We really need to focus on what that means for affordable housing and workforce housing issue and bring those people back to the island to satisfy the needs of the economy that we have here. And again, I don't think it's just a Middletown issue. I think it's across the entire island. I think it's across the state, to be honest with you, but across the entire island. And we got to do a better job of really combining forces and solving those issues at a macro level, not just at a micro level.
Taking a step back to the regionalization question, it gets approved. All three questions get approved. We'll move forward. Where do you think the cost savings should go?
Back in education. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think those funds should be restricted once we understand what the cost is to educate per child when we regionalize. Those funds move nowhere but back into the educational system to create improved programs, improved opportunities, create diversity of the programs. Again, so I can't stress this enough. Every child is not college prep, right? We have a huge opportunity now for career type pathways, given the nature of the industries that we can support just locally. So whether it's the blue economy, it's the supporting defense contracting, I mean, the trades, how many people do you know own their own businesses, can't even find apprentices right now, right? For whether it's electric, plumber, contractors, what have you. There's so many opportunities for our youth to go into a career-ready pathway and not go to college. Not everybody's ready for college. I wasn't ready for college. I got my degree after the Marine Corps. I had to grow up a little bit before I decided that education was important for me, right? But that's the idea, is that we have to provide those elements that provide the pathway to create citizens who are ready, able, and capable to provide a value back to the communities that they're serving. So every dollar of savings should go directly back into those educational enhancements. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I guess it's been a little controversial, and I brought it up a couple times. So just get your take on the process or how it's moving forward. Middletown Center.
Love the Middletown Center. If you recall, one of my earliest quotes as I got on the council was, I drive by that plot of land and I might as well just throw my wallet out into the middle of it because it provides no value, no revenue, no benefit to Middletown. We're at this crossroads, and I talked about economic vitality, right? We need to find ways to, one, increase efficiencies with how we operate. First and foremost, I think that's one way to drive savings to the taxpayer, find those efficiencies. Secondly, we need to find new revenue streams. Municipalities, normally the revenue stream is tax, right? Whatever tax dollars we bring in. That's wonderful. Can we start to create services? Look at some of the gems that we have. And I know I'm shifting just a little bit. I'll come back to the Middletown Center. Think about the beach for a second, right? How do we increase the services there to create revenue generation from that gem that we have? Maybe it's a new shack. Maybe it's a new family day. Maybe we incorporate more family days, right? Find ways to increase potential opportunity for revenues there. When I look at the Middletown Town Center, it can serve a number of different purposes, right? First and foremost, a gathering place for people. Opportunity for increased tax revenue, potentially from bed, food, beverage. These are all good things to have. Also an opportunity to allow it as a gathering place for folks in Middletown, Newport, Portsmouth to come to share, to have community, to break bread. Is the layout perfect? No, it'll never be perfect. Are we locked into any layout today? No, we're not locked into any layout today. I don't want that to be the issue that we're talking about here. I view it as opportunity for us to really shape and find an increased opportunity for revenues for the town so it's not geared back towards the taxpayer. I have to find ways to make Middletown affordable, and that's taking some of the burden off the current taxpayer and shifting it someplace else so that we can sustain those services and those level of services that we have today. That's really that economic center, right? That's the driver for that plot of land. I think also as we start to increase, beautify, make it a place that people want to come to, it's going to create opportunities to improve the surrounding areas, right? So we do have a stretch of road there where there's buildings that have been empty for a very long time. I think of it from a business sense. If I drive people, bring people to live there, have people congregate there, it can bring business across the street. So we may see the opportunity to then clean up the other side of the street, bring new business over there as well in buildings that have been sitting empty, right? So I think it's a win for the town. Not a done deal. Need to figure out all the bits and pieces of it, but we can't sit also and ponder this thing for the next 2 or 3 years. We've been pondering this idea of that town center since when? With the early 2000s, it's been like a 20-year project. It's just going on for way too long. It doesn't generate revenue. It doesn't generate any activities, right? The only thing that I know that happens over there is flag football today.
Yeah.
We have an opportunity for a new library in that space as well. Change how we deliver that service. The old service of a library, and I won't speak for our library director, but just my own observation is that books are books. We need to change the type of services that the library offers because we're much more digital in nature, right? So what can we do to enhance those services at the library as we build a new footprint for a library there to really meet the needs of the future residents and citizens in the town? Which is a huge opportunity for us. It's a huge opportunity, not just for revenue, but also for the idea of meeting future needs for those citizens that are coming in to Middletown, housing, things like that.
Chris, we could talk forever, but before I ask you why people should fill in the bubble next to your name, were there any topics or anything that we did not get to that was on your mind today?
Oh man, so many times. Like I said, we could talk forever. I just think we're running a marathon here, and good decision making in that process is going to be king. At the end of the day, we can only make decisions based upon the information that we have that's present in front of us today. So that's the biggest takeaway. Whether it's things that we're dealing with zoning, whether it's the short-term rental issue, whether it's the economic development opportunities in the Middletown Center or regionalization, we can only make decisions based upon the information that we have today. Trying to project what the future could be, not great. Just make those decisions, make them fast. And if we fail, that's fine. Failure is not a problem. It's how we recover from that failure. That's what's going to cement us, right? That's what's going to be in the lore of Middletown is that, yeah, that didn't work out, but they shifted and transitioned and solved the problem and something better came out of it. That's a much better tale to tell, right? So I don't, I mean, we could talk for hours. There's no shortage of topics, but I think just to finish, why fill in the bubble next to my name? I'm just getting started. I've been very quiet. I sit up on the dais and I take things in. I like to process and understand what's going on. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to do some things, but focus has to be in the forefront here for what Middletown needs, right? My promise to the voters is that I want to continue to preserve the history of Middletown, but at the same time, I want to advance us in the next phase of our growth. What does that look like? What does that mean for Middletown? We were a farming community many, many years ago. Economically, that doesn't make sense for us anymore. Maybe in pockets it does, but economically, does that make sense for us to remain that? Historically, we can preserve some of that history, right? Some of that lineage and that culture, but we really need to find a way to start to move forward. Using my business background, which is lengthy, create efficiencies, improve the services to our citizens, but make sure that we also have accountability and transparency. And I think that's incredibly important. Hold people accountable for what they're going to do. Promises are only as good as if it's kept at the end of the day, but also that transparency is critical. So I appreciate the continued support from the Middletown citizens and the voter base and population here. I'm looking forward to continuing to serve Middletown for the next 2 years, at a minimum, next 2 years.
Chris, this could be the biggest question I ask you could be controversial. We have mutual friends that are in a band, and this could cost you at least one vote either way or the other. Better musician, Choppy or Manville in the band Chopville?
So here's the best part of this. So Choppy's a resident in Narragansett, and Keith Manville is now a resident in Portsmouth. None of their votes matter for me. So. And I would say that equally, the two parts come together to form Voltron, right? You can't have one without the other. But if I was looking at it just from sheer entertainment value, John Choppy Marshall's my guy.
And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but perhaps Middletown and Newport need to come together like Chopville to form that one thing for the school district.
I love
All right, Chris. I appreciate it. I wish you the very best of luck over the next couple of weeks. People, if they visit Middletown's website, they can find all of your contact information if they want to get in touch, learn anything more, ask your questions, tell you you're wrong, all available on the website. And then people can find more about the ballot questions on vote.ri.gov. Chris, thanks very much, man.
Ryan, I appreciate it, man. Have a good day.
You too. That is Chris Logan. He is an incumbent, and he is seeking re-election on Middletown Town Council. Voting starts next week, October 19th, and the general election is November 8th. And you can find out more about the ballot on vote.ri.gov. You can also rewatch this, share this, all available on whatsupnuke.com. We'll have it as a podcast shortly. Thanks for watching.